doing a reading that I wanted to share. This is from a really cool book. It's called Still Proclaiming Your Wonders, Homilies for the 80s. Page 90. Risen Christ, risen Christian, third Sunday of Easter. Ever since Easter dawned once again, I've been restless. The restlessness increased in intensity as I focused on today's readings. They are indeed stirring passages. In the face of death, Peter and his fellow apostles insist that they will continue to preach Jesus crucified and risen. We are witnesses to these things, exiled to Patmos, rocky isle. John has risen a vision of the Lamb that was slain, hailed by every creature in heaven and on earth, under the earth, and in the sea. By the Sea of Tiberias, a Christ, newly alive, invites 7 of his disciples to breakfast on bread and fish, and none of them dares or needs to ask him who he is. They knew it was the Lord. All of this is grist for a good homily, and still I stayed restless. In the dead of one night I discovered why. I had rediscovered my Easter faith. It was not enough to join the apostles before the council and proclaim that Jesus is the Lord. Not enough to shout with myriads of angels, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing." I had to get behind all this. I needed to break fast with Jesus at the shore, squat near the charcoal fire, ask him to tell me what all this means. First, what does it mean that Christ has risen? Second, what does it mean to be a risen Christian? Here is what I heard. What does risen Christ say to me? To begin with the basic, it tells me that his soul and his body, torn violently asunder on Good Friday afternoon, came together gently on Sunday morn, came together to shape the self-same Jesus, the Jesus who broke bread at the lake with the 7. The Jesus who broke bread at the lake with the 7 is the same Jesus who took flesh from teenage Mary, the same Jesus who learned carpentry from Joseph and taught theology to doctors in the temple, the same Jesus who walked the dusty roads of Galilee and raised the widow's only son from the dead, the same Jesus who changed wheat and wine into his body and blood, and the next day was pinned cruelly to a cross. The Jesus who rose is the Jesus who died. But this is only the beginning, the sheer physical fact. He really rose. The resurrection draws its profound meaning from 2 slender monosyllables. For me, an astonishing aspect of Jesus is that everything he did for me. He borrowed my flesh. For me, he lived his hidden and public life. For me, he gasped out of his last painful breath. For me, he sprang from the tomb. For me, he returned in glory to the Father. For me. But what can this possibly mean? Jesus lived, died, and rose to life for me? I find the crux of the matter in John. God sent the Son into the world, not to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him. Not some impersonal, abstract world, but every man and woman, born of woman and man, you and I, coloring each conception from Cain to Antichrist is sin with a capital S. Nice bright sun today. Hey, Dad.
Okay, I'm get it out.
All right.
I gotta get up there and see what that works. Oh, I'm telling you, man, you think that's a big thing to find that. But it's just old.